What the heck is happening with Jon Stewart lately?
You were presser. You were inside the guts of a White House. Mm-hmm. You saw how the sausage is made inside the White House.
Yeah. I worked at State Department. I think USAID is a tremendous institution. I don't think it should be a front and center top messaging argument. Should people in Congress defend and use every lever of their power to prevent the Trump administration from gutting it? Yes, because they play a pivotal role around the world, cracking down on corruption, defending a free press, a million things. But I guess when it comes to how the Democrats are communicating with the public.
So let me just be clear. USAID defends a free press. How is the press free when you literally are sending money to over 7,000 journalists around the world and 200 different news organizations paid for by U.S. taxpayers? How is that free exactly? I mean, the BBC, Reuters, Politico, all of these news organizations and journalists around the world are receiving money from the United States government. How does that make them free and unfettered? It doesn't. It makes them an extension of a propaganda machine. She just said that with a straight face.
They are believers in the separation of government.
Here's where we're getting into it. So I think other people would say that's a veneer, and that what Donald Trump is doing is
See, this is where Jon Stewart is based, like when he wants to be. Because he knows, I saw him smirk there just a second ago. He's seeing through the BS of what Jen Psaki is saying. And this is sort of the brilliance here. So Jen Psaki comes on this podcast thinking, oh, I've got a really favorable friend here. I've got a fellow Democrat who's going to give me some easy conversation here about how Donald Trump is an authoritarian and Democrats, need to do better. No. Here we go.
He's actually explicitly exposing the dark heart of how the world actually works. The systems that we've set up that we're defending, that are status quo. We subsidize pharmaceutical companies. We subsidize oil companies, yet we pay the highest drug prices. Our health, like all those things have added up to this. No? The systems that we've created, were Democrats not urgent enough in the alarm bells going off about the corruption within our so-called status quo system?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, that's what it turns out.
I think
that's called socialism, right? When you artificially prop up oil and gas companies, when you provide subsidies, that's another way. It's crony capitalism, and it's socialism. There's no other way to look at it. You can call it crony capitalism all you want, but it's socialism, and he's right. So these systems, the government institutions have all failed the American people, and Donald Trump has rallied around that. And so rebuilding the government in Trump's, vision is exactly what they have a problem with. But it's been a failure for the American people for so long.
Part of that was not addressing and listening to the core people who should have been the base and who are the base, I think, of the Democratic Party, which is a lot of working people who are impacted by exactly those policies you just outlined. So yes, it is different things. And part of it is also, there are things that on its surface that Trump has said government is bloated. It is inefficient. And there are reasons why that should be addressed. The way to do that is not to have Elon Musk go, target people who have attended DEI trainings, right?
My point is, and I'll be perfectly frank, I lean towards the Bernie and the Elizabeth Warren and, all those sites economically. I've been shocked.
Socialist, in other words.
By how undemocratic the Democratic Party can be.
Tell me, what do you mean by, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but what do you mean by that?
By putting their foot on the scales to get, make sure that Hillary Clinton comes out of the thing, or make sure that, that they're listening to.
Oh, you mean when the DNC totally undercut Bernie Sanders, and when MSNBC, your channel, MSNBC, refused to even put him on the air? We know from MSNBC whistleblowers who wouldn't allow Bernie Sanders to be on the air because the DNC basically would, the MSNBC is an extension of the DNC. So you're putting Hillary Clinton up there on purpose, even though Bernie Sanders was doing incredibly well and likely could have won if they didn't put their hands on the scale. You mean that?
That anger about the way that even the ACA, quite frankly, struck me as a very conservative.
You mean because it didn't have a public option in it?
Correct. That it didn't address the very thing that was causing the foundational upset. If I were to break this down narratively, what I think the Democrats have forgotten is government may not be perfect, but it's the only thing large enough to offset multinational corporate exploitation and corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't act like that's urgent and that affects people's lives, then so if the big policies that we make are billions more dollars to insurance companies that we think are fucking people over left and right for their healthcare, so isn't that part of why people lost faith?
Yeah. So yes, I think we're saying, well, I'm trying to say something similar, which is this.
Boom, boom.
Which is Democrats just lost everything. They control nothing. They control, I mean, they don't control the House. They don't control the Senate. They don't control the White House, and they don't control the Supreme Court. So now is the time to break some shit, right? And break some China.
They do control the email lists that continue to ask for money.
Well, that's true.
They still have that.
It's like an overwhelming. And that is what, and I hear the public option. Look, I worked for Obama. He would have been for the public option. He didn't think it could get through, right? Was he wrong? Maybe he was wrong.
But that's the point. So it's the audacity of hope with the governance of the possible. And that's the point. Like, Donald Trump is nothing if not audacious. He manifests this way.
Yeah, but what does he produce, though? I mean, he doesn't. Even if he sees tariffs as a success, it's not going to be, but he even had to pull back from that. It's like, what are the outcomes of his success, of his grand proclamations?
Well, he accomplished them. He got the tax cuts that he wanted. He basically got the cabinet members that he wanted. I mean, he controls the Republican Party. So that is got what he wanted.
Right. So he got some.
So your answer, I mean, yeah, he just answered it for you. He got the tax cuts down to 21%. And now he wants to push it down to 15% and create a tax haven in the United States. I mean, these are the things that Trump has manifested and pushed forward because the American people demanded it. And so you don't have so the American people would have wanted a public option, but because Obama ceded control to the insurance companies and big pharma, that's why we have Obamacare the way that we do. Your boss. So you're making the point.
Things he wanted. What I'm getting at is like, yes, the Affordable Care Act, imperfect, but there would be, it would have been that or nothing. That's how I think people at the time felt. And you disagree because you think.
Completely disagree.
And then there's this. So I think Stewart, in many ways, he might be a socialist. He's a big Bernie supporter, but he's kind of tired of the BS. He's really been tired of the BS from Democrats. And I think he's hitting on something here. Remember when he went on Stephen Colbert's show and he called out the lab leak? And of course, Stephen Colbert tried to shut him down on that point because they're getting CBS makes so much money from the biopharmaceutical complex. And by all accounts, Jon Stewart at the time was basically retired. And he's like, I don't have to worry about this. I'm going to tell you the truth. There was a lab leak. Came right out of China. Trump told us all about it. And Stephen Colbert couldn't handle it. Watch the deputy assistant of the Defense Department. Listen to this. This is amazing.
To be doing, like, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these pieces.
Please educate me on
sure.
What
so an audit is exactly what you just described,
yes.
Which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit or the fact that the DOD has not passed an audit is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false.
So you're saying we don't know where the $200 billion went that we sent to Ukraine. That's not waste? Like, I think the American people who get up every day and go to work at 7 a.m. and sit in traffic and aren't able to pay their energy bills would consider that waste because they're sending their taxes into you every year, and then you've just wasted it. You've sent it off to some place that you don't know where it's going. That's not wasteful? That's different? What?
There. So
what is
now it's a question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world,
yeah,
that's waste.
How is that waste?
if I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And
she's like, and she's a Biden, she's a Biden. So this is a year old, this video, but it just kind of surfaced recently. But she's like, you're such a little man. Like I know what I'm doing because I work in the Department of Defense. So like your like sort of accounting rules that you guys play by, totally different than me.
when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, look, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure I
that
didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went, like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. And especially when they see food insecurity on military bases, and they see...
You want to talk about that? Because that's a good... we should be talking... I mean,
well,
I'm trying to understand where you're trying to go, other than the dollars, which really bother you.
Yeah. The dollars really bother you. The $850 billion really bothers you, that we don't know where it went. Listen to her smugness. Oh, my God.
I mean, I'm trying to understand where you're trying to go, other than the dollars, which really bother you.
I could smack her in the head. The dollars is the thing that really bothers you. Yeah. How about, and then also, how are those dollars being used? The dollars bother me, but also, where are you sending those dollars? Oh, you sent them to the most corrupt government in Europe, Ukraine. And we now know that those oligarchs inside of Ukraine have gone to Monaco and they've bought yachts and all sorts of things. They've moved. So, and Zelensky last week admitted, we don't know where that money is. You're just concerned about the dollars.
I think it doesn't really bother me. I think it's all connected.
Okay.
I think
tell
when
me,
I
tell
look,
me that story.
Tell me that story.
when I see a State Department get a certain amount of money and a military budget be 10 times that, and I see a struggle within government to get people like more basic services, and then that department that got that, I mean, we got out of 20 years of war and the Pentagon got a $50 billion raise. Like, that's shocking to me. Now, I may not understand exactly the ins and outs and the incredible magic of an audit, but I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. Like, to me, that's fucking corruption. I'm sorry. And if that blows your mind, and if you think like that's like a crazy agenda for me to have, I really think that that's institutional thinking, and that it's not looking at the day-to-day reality of the people that you call the greatest fighting force in the world. So I get back to this idea of like, I'm not looking to pick a fight with you, but I am surprised at that the reaction to these questions are, you don't know what an audit is, bucko. Like, that's just weird to me.
Okay.
Like, there is a lot.
Okay, so you're a little man who doesn't understand things. Let me explain it to you like you're 4 years old. I mean, Jon Stewart might be a socialist, but he's based, and he's not afraid to ask those questions. I think the Democrats need to pay attention to what he's asking, because they're sweeping it under the rug, and they're going to lose again and again and again.